Welcome back to Coffee Break Blogging, where we're going to continue on our series to creating and growing a profitable blog-based information business online. Now, in our last few episodes, we've been talking about selecting a good market or a niche to get into with our blog, and we're evaluating this based on its business potential. Now, by this point in our series, you should have some potential ideas, if not the one main idea that we're gonna go ahead and proceed in our process with. Because what we're going to start talking about in this episode is actually how to start verifying that business model, how to actually make that bridge from a niche to an actual business model. Because a lot of bloggers actually really fall short in the whole idea of actually developing a real business model. They literally go from having a niche idea to just start the blog right off the bat. And that's the problem where people come into this a little bit down the road and they try to monetize that blog. And I'm putting monetize in air quotes here because it tends to be an afterthought. They just went literally from interest, niche, set up the blog, and that was it. That was their pathway into it, and it just breeds so much complexity down the road, usually in the area of coming to grips with the fact that you're not really going to make any money with that site. And that's not something that I want you guys to have to worry about. So what we're going to talk about in this episode is how to bridge into the actual business model. Now, what I want to introduce you to in this episode is a concept called the lean canvas. Now, the lean canvas is basically a one-page business plan concept, and it was, at least where I first got exposed to it, was from a book called The Lean Startup. And this is from Ash, I'm going to say Moria. I'm actually not quite sure how to pronounce the guy's last name, but it's a really interesting, very valuable book about this concept of the lean canvas. And so there's 9 boxes on this one-page business plan. And to me, I find that this is just the most approachable concept of a business plan that I've seen, and also really useful. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run through what these 9 boxes are, but then we're going to talk a little bit about how to actually proceed with them. Now, I will forewarn you in this episode that we're not diving really deep into this topic. I actually have a course inside the academy called Discover Your Business Model, where I actually walk you through the thought process of developing the ideas behind each of these 9 boxes on the lean canvas that Ash came up with. But we're going to just touch on them briefly here. So box number 1 of the lean canvas is your problem. Identifying the problem that your target market is looking to solve, the specific problem that you are going to be solving for them by way of products or services of some kind. Now, being that I am primarily coming into you with the idea of an information business, then it's going to be training products that are going to deliver to them a solution by way of that information. So that's what we're going to be looking at. But what are the exact problems that you are going to be solving for them? Now, from there, you want to start looking at your customer segments, which is the next box on the lean canvas. The customer segments are going to be the exact people that you're going to be looking to reach with this new business. Now, we're looking at it in terms of groups. For example, if you were doing something in the area of photography, then your customer segments would be various types of photographers, like wedding photographers or portrait photographers, what have you, and whatever information you think is most relevant there. But we're thinking about different market segments that would be the right type of people that are going to have this problem that we're going to target with our solution, which is the next box in the lean canvas. Now, you need to have a solution to the problem. Now, we're starting up a blog and an information business typically to go behind that blog. And so we're in a position where we can create lots of solutions for people by way of the information that we're providing. Now, if you're going to go use a blog and go into consulting or any type of a service, great. Your service at that point is going to be the solution. But you need to really think here in terms of what that solution is really going to be and how it directly addresses the problem that you're listing on your lean canvas. You don't want to list under the solution box something like ebook or consulting or something. Don't be vague about it. you want to ask yourself the question, how exactly is this solution specifically tailored toward the problem that I've listed on this lean canvas? Now, the next box is channels. This is how you're actually going to reach these customer segments that you've put on the lean canvas. How are you going to reach them? Where can they be found? What are the lines of communication that you want to get on so that you can reach these people? So if we were, again, addressing photographers and we want to find wedding photographers and portrait photographers, you have to ask yourself, where can I find portrait photographers and wedding photographers hanging out on the internet? Or what are they reading? Like literally, where am I going to reach these people? And you want to list that under channels on the lean canvas. Now, the next one is interesting. This is called the unique value proposition. Some people call it the UVP, but it's the idea of having a very compelling message of why you are different than other people who are offering solutions in the same market. Why should they do business with you versus somebody else? Now, sometimes that can be a difficult question to answer, but you need to come up with something. And a lot of it is not going to necessarily always be an entirely different solution. Sometimes it's going to be in the positioning of that solution or in something that you've done differently with how you set it up to make it stand out and be different than somebody else. This is the whole idea of competition, and competition is a real thing. It's actually a good thing. It forces all of us to be better, but we need to think about what we're bringing to that particular marketplace. What is your unique value proposition? The next box is your unfair advantage. These are those things that other people cannot easily copy. For example, your level of experience in this particular field, your background, your knowledge, those things would not be easy for everybody else to acquire because they have to go to school for it or what have you. So whatever niche that you're looking to go into and this business that you're looking to create, you need to brainstorm what your unfair advantages are. Those things that cannot be easily copied or cannot be just simply bought. And what are those things? Because those are the things that are going to help, especially when you put them alongside your unique value proposition, to really help set you aside in that market and stand out from the competition that you're going to have. The next box is your revenue streams. Now, we are talking business here, so obviously we are going to be looking at making money. Now, if you are at the outset, you might not totally know what all your revenue streams are going to be, and that's fine. The boxes on this lean canvas can and will change. This is not something that is set in stone. So what I'm asking you to do at this point is just simply put a few vague ideas here. You don't even need to list price points, but look at your solution that you're proposing in the earlier box, and then just lay out what the revenue stream is going to be. Next is going to be your cost structure. This is how much it's going to cost to run this business. So in an online business, this is going to be things like your hosting, your email marketing hosting, the typical things that go along with running an online business. The beauty of an online business is that there's a lot more profit upside than expense typically, because it doesn't cost that much to start a business like this. It's more sweat equity than anything else. But you also want to look at any upfront costs that may come up in order to help you jumpstart this thing. For example, if you think that you're going to need to reach people via paid advertising on Facebook, then you might want to have something on the cost structure for that. Now, again, any dollar amounts you put here would be totally editable later. This is primarily an exercise in getting you to actually think about this as a business. And then the last box in the lean canvas is called key metrics. You cannot grow what you can't measure. That's just a basic fact of management. So you need to be concentrating on certain core metrics when it comes to your business, and you want to identify on this lean canvas what your key metrics are going to be. Whatever your primary goals are in that business, revenue, number of opt-ins, if you're getting ready to start a membership site, possibly it would be things like number of new members per week. Another one might be member churn, which is going to be the amount of people who cancel. These would be some some core metrics. You don't want to have too many of them because it makes things really complicated, but you do definitely want to have these KPIs, which are key performance indicators in your business, so you can actually manage by numbers, and it also gives you something to focus on when it comes to your own productivity. So those are the main boxes of the lean canvas, and I'll just review them very, very quickly. Those are your problems, your customer segments, your solution, your channels. This is how you're going to reach people. Your unique value proposition, or UVP, your unfair advantage, your revenue streams, your cost structure, and your key metrics. Now, I'm going to make one last point here about the lean canvas, and this goes really deep into why this is a really powerful tool for you to go through. The lean canvas is not meant to be something where you just brainstorm it and pull it out of your head, write it down, and then there it is. I mean, this is not theory. The lean canvas is something that is a tool for you to actually go and test these ideas in an iterative fashion. And what that means is that you put forth something that you're going to test. You're going to go out there and you're going to test it, and then you're going to come back and reevaluate, readjust slightly if necessary, and then go back and test it again. And by doing that process over and over and over again, you can, over time, verify your ideas before you actually do them. And this is something that I definitely recommend that you go through, because it's really easy to start up a blog and a business behind it, put all this work into a membership site or what have you, and thinking that the world is going to beat down your door wanting it, but that ultimately doesn't happen. And we don't want that to happen. We want you to go into this in little baby steps, so that if that time comes where you need to pivot a little bit because your idea wasn't quite on the mark. Whoops, I do that every single time. Let me mute this darn thing. Hold on. This is so funny. Oh, you guys are going to love this when you go back to listen to the episode. Basically, it's playing this whole intro, and I don't know how to make it stop. But anyways, this is one of those things when it comes to systems that I'm just simply going to have to fix. Anyways, let's continue here. What we were talking about, you want to iterate through this so that you go through it in baby steps, so that you don't put a lot of effort into something that might not have been on the mark with the original idea. So what you're going to do with this is you're going to develop a hypothesis on each thing. So for example, in the problem box, you're going to go and develop a hypothesis in a factual way that says that my market is experiencing said problem or what have you. Or let's say you had a specific example here of you're going to write a blog post, and you're going to say that blog post that's going to pitch this idea that I have should drive more than 50 early signups. So what you would do is you would write a blog post that pitches some idea that you have that furthers some box here, the lean canvas, and you can set a metric for that says, well, if that were a good idea, I should probably be able to drive at least 50 signups for it. And not a paid thing. You just literally have an opt-in box. And so you put that as a measurable hypothesis, and then you do that thing and you measure it and see what happens. And if you fall short of those 50 signups, well, then you go back and you readjust a little bit, and then you can come back and try it again and see if you get those 50 signups. But that's just a really loose idea, but the whole idea here is that you're going to test these things before you hop into it. You want to see if there's legs on this idea that you have before you move too far ahead with it. Okay? So that's a really broad overview with a mild, fairly hilarious interruption of my outro there on this podcast. If you want to get more information about the Lean Canvas, then Ash Moria's, I'm probably butchering his last name greatly, but his book is called The Lean Startup. Definitely a good book that I recommend that you go through. If you want me to walk you through the process with more detail, I've got a course that's pretty A to B inside the Academy at blogmarketingacademy.com, where it's called Discover Your Business Model, and it will help you go through exactly that. Now, in the next episode here of Coffee Break Blogging, we're going to continue on this concept, but we're going to specifically address how you can test out these ideas when you don't have an audience yet for yourself. I mean, the example that I just gave was the idea of you write a blog post to your audience and you can test an idea that way by judging a response. But what happens if you don't yet have an audience to do something like that with? We'll talk about that coming up in episode 41 of Coffee Break Blogging. Okay? I will see you then. Hopefully next time I will not have my pre-recorded thing getting in the way again. This is one of those growing pains of getting into a more routine habit of making the podcast. So I'll get a little bit better at it over time. Anyway, see you next time.